What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Listen, I'm back. Can we talk about how good Kamala Harris is? This lady has been on a media blitz, okay? She was recently on the Howard Stern show. And let me tell you, I love the Howard Stern show because it humanizes politicians. Now, a lot of people believe that if Hillary Clinton had been on the Howard Stern show before she ran for president in 2016, she might have had a better outcome, because one of the critiques of Hillary Clinton was that she just seemed very fake, very very politician-y, if we could make that a word, right? So Kamala Harris heard that and said, you know what, I'm gonna get ahead of this and I'm gonna go on all shows, okay? So she was on the Howard Stern show, and she had this moment where Howard Stern asked her about appointing a Republican to her cabinet. I want you to take a look at what she had to say.
You just said, too, you're going to put a Republican in your cabinet.
Correct.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's old school.
Listen, I know, and I've been a decision maker long enough to know that the best decisions I make are when I bring in a variety of perspectives that allow me to consider every angle and to build consensus. That's the best way as a leader, I believe, you make good decisions.
I'm guessing it's going to be Liz Cheney who you appoint. Am I correct?
I gotta win, Howard. I gotta win.
You gotta
win.
You gotta win.
And listen, but the thing about Liz Cheney, let me just say, she's remarkable. She's smart. She is a dedicated public servant. She has shown extraordinary courage
Absolutely.
in this moment where there's such violent, divisive language, that she would put herself out so publicly and say, I'm country before party. And, she and I don't agree on everything.
No.
But the fundamentals, we do agree on.
But she's saying my one big issue is I believe in democracy and the people's right to vote.
Yeah.
That's it. This is the United States of America. If the lights go out here, it's going to be a darkness all over the world.
Let's not throw up our hands. Let's roll up our sleeves, because this is our country. And you know what? If you love our country, we got to fight for our country. We can't take our country for granted. I love our country. I love the American people. And what I see when I'm traveling all over our country is that people are coming together of all different backgrounds based on a common belief that if you love something, you got to fight for it. And that's this moment.
The mainstream media often asks stupid questions. Yes, some of the questions they ask are important, but it does kind of get old when, whether she was on 60 Minutes, whether she visited CNN, whether it was MSNBC, whether it was whatever network you can name, they all ask the same questions. What do you think about the war in Gaza? What do you think about Israel? What do you think about inflation? What do you think? And her answers are pretty much consistent no matter which outlet she's on. But these interviews, like she did with Call Her Daddy podcast, and like she did with Howard Stern, and like she did with Chris Colbert, these interviews are more humanizing, relatable conversations. And I love what she said. Like, this woman literally is doing what needs to be done, period. Okay? And this is the type of politicking that I like. I don't like the politics where Democrats are so polarizing that they can't work with Republicans, and Republicans are so committed to their cause that they can't work with Democrats. Progress is made when you work across the aisle, period. That's how progress is made. Progress is not made, everybody staying in their separate tribal camps. And the fact that she wants to bring a Republican into her administration is a good thing. And if she is going to choose somebody, I strongly think Liz Cheney is a fantastic choice for that position, because Liz Cheney is somebody that I would vote for president. If Liz Cheney was running for president, I could see myself voting for Liz Cheney if she was the best person, if she was the best person of the choices that we may have being presented. So I love this, because this is what it's all about, folks. You don't want your president of the United States to bleed blue. You don't want your president of the United States to bleed red. You want your president of the United States to be just like Kamala Harris, where she bleeds American, period. I relate a lot to Kamala Harris and what she's doing. I admire what she's doing because, listen, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I was raised by my mom, and she died when I was 10 years old, unfortunately. And when she passed away, my grandmother took the helm and she raised me. she continued raising me up until I turned 21, and then she passed away. So the most important people in my life, which were women, and the people that I were influenced by in my life were women. And that could be why I tend to have some feminine mannerisms, but who cares? But they were women. They were strong Black women. And not to say that I didn't have men who influenced me, but the men, I didn't start really being influenced by them until I got older. And I started to reflect back on my childhood and things like that. And I do have a lot of strong men in my life as an adult. But my formative years were strongly influenced by women. If I had a visual representation, this is why representation matters. If there was someone like Kamala Harris in politics that I could see visibly as I was going through my formative years, no doubt I probably would have became a lawyer. I probably would be in, ran for Senate or ran for House or something like that. Maybe I'll be a judge by now in my late 30s. Who knows? But I didn't have that coming up as a young man who was a mama's boy, who really felt safe around the women in my life and who were my biggest influence. I didn't have that model. And some people might say, oh, well, you got Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters is 92 or somewhere over there. I don't know how she is. But Maxine Waters has been old since I was a baby. I didn't know about Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters just became popular when she went viral a few years ago. That wouldn't have had no impact on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about in the 90s, in the early 2000s. I graduated high school in 2003. I can't think of, outside of Condoleezza Rice, which Condoleezza Rice wasn't really, I wasn't really paying attention to politics like that when she was in office as the Secretary of State. But someone like Kamala Harris, in the role that she's in, would have been a huge game changer in the hope and the vision and the motivation I had within myself. So this is why representation matters. Women influence women, but women also have a strong influence on men, especially us mama boys. And I want to say this in closing. Right now, Florida is about to experience a catastrophic hurricane called Milton. And Hurricane Milton is no joke. This is extremely serious. I find it really sad and unfortunate that Governor Ron DeSantis decided to play politics and ignore calls from Vice President Kamala Harris and things like that. And I find it very sad that a lot of Republican politicians do not take global warming seriously. This is what you vote for when you're voting for Republicans. A lot of them are people who don't believe in climate change. I'm not talking about your Liz Cheneys, I'm talking about your MAGAs. Don't believe in climate change, believe it's a hoax. Meanwhile, we are seeing unprecedented weather events time and time again. You have a storm coming in from the Gulf of Mexico as its originating source. That we haven't seen that happen in our lifetime. This is a first in a century situation, and it's going to continue to happen. How many once in a century situations do we need to experience before we take climate change seriously? How many times as we as Americans are going to vote against our best interests? Forget drag queens reading books in restaurants. Forget books that you don't like being able to be checked out in school. There are bigger fish to fry, folks. There are bigger fish to fry. Climate change is real. Women's rights are real. Civil rights are real and need to be something that we really do vote in favor of as we decide who we're going to vote for as we go to the polls. And I'll say this last thing. For those of you that live in Georgia, the Supreme Court has reinstated, the Georgia State Supreme Court has reinstated the 6-week abortion ban. Okay? And a ballot measure to revert it back to what it was post the overturning of Roe v. Wade is not on the ballot. So that means in the state of Georgia, if this stands, you will not be able to get an abortion after 6 weeks. 6 weeks is before most women even know that they're even pregnant. And not only that 6 weeks ban has no exceptions for rape or incest. Think about that. Do you want these Republican dickhead men to be the people who decide the choices you make with your body, especially after trauma. So if you are in the state of Georgia, it is imperative that you vote blue all the way down the ballot. The reason for that is because if you have a Democratic House and Senate in the Georgia chamber, state house, they can overturn that stuff. And they can, or at least put a ballot measure in place. But these Republican dickheads ain't gonna do it. So vote for your best interest. Women, men, people. Georgia, the Republicans that are running Georgia right now are a fraud. They don't care about you, and they will continue to let their religious convictions dictate your life. If you like this message, if you like this content, make sure you follow, like, and share with everybody you know. All right? Have a good day, folks.